Morning. Bill George is a professor at the Harvard Business School, a former chairman and CEO of Medtronic, sits on the board over at Goldman Sachs and ExxonMobil. Bill, good morning as always.
Carl.
Let's separate this into two pieces. Let's do the alleged payments to some of these gestores in Mexico, and then let's do their own internal investigation or lack thereof. Which is more serious? Are they both a big deal? Is only one? What's going through your mind?
I just don't know enough, Carl. I know what I read in the papers, and I would say the allegations in the New York Times were very serious. Anyone would take those very seriously. On the other hand, I know both the former chairman CEO Lee Scott and current CEO Mike Duke, and have always seen them and believe them to be people of integrity. And Lee Scott did some remarkable transformations on the employee side with diversity and the environment starting about 5-6 years ago. And they go back 7 years, so it's hard to piece all the things together and get the whole picture when the allegations are coming out from, in the Wal-Mart scheme, a relatively low-level employee for a company of more than 2 million people. And it is interesting to note that Wal-Mart itself has launched an investigation over a year ago from its audit committee of its board and its management. So I think we have to hear the other side. We've heard one side, now we hear the other side, and it's hard to tell until you hear that. But
you have served with Scott on the Goldman board, correct?
I have.
You haven't talked to him specifically about this episode?
No, I haven't. But I tell you, he was a very strong voice for integrity, and I've seen him that way throughout his lifetime. And so that's why I was very surprised, Reed. But again, I want to hear the other side of the story.
Bill, how do you resolve, obviously, what the FCPA mandates in this country, right? Prohibits foreign corruption practices, and the view by many executives, both on and off the record, that, look, this is how things get done in another country. It's just how things operate. How do you connect those two? Well,
first of all, Carl, bribery is not uncommon in Mexico and in many countries outside the United States, Asian and other countries. But this is not how global companies operate. I don't know of global companies that operate by going along with local practices. Maybe they did 20 years ago, but I can tell you today, all the global companies I know are very clear about their ethics, their standards, and they enforce them. And I think that's what you have to do. If you're running a big global company, it's almost impossible never to have violations. But when you find out about them, you act swiftly, you remove the people involved, you put in new people, and you make sure that you have all the preventative practices in place, and that you as the CEO are out communicating all the time. And that's
finally, Bill, your best advice in a few seconds for what Wal-Mart should do at this point.
Well, I think Wal-Mart's got to be totally transparent in what they learned. They need to have their own investigation and put out what happened some 7 years ago. But it's also got to ensure that it has a very clear compliance system, and it's reinforced right from the top. And Mike Duke has got to take that on, as well as not just training. They have to train everyone, but going beyond that to ensure that there is this culture. I believe they're a company of integrity, and that has to be reinforced all the time, because some people that you hire in local locations don't really believe you. And you have to say, that's the way we play the game here. And yes, you can do business, and you can be successful with high integrity. In fact, that's how we're going to be more successful.
Right.
Okay?
Bill, appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Bill George joining us from Atlanta this morning.